Look, this is already the shear of Yud Menachem, right? Not every person reaches this step consciously. To serve Hashem with the heart, from the inner dimension of the heart. The Bechinas Pnimis in the inner dimension. And the answer is, the inner heart is in him in a state of Golus and captivity. Golus is the idea of the Shechina being in Golus. Okay, in other words, this is the pintalayir, the innermost spark of godliness which a Jew has, and it's found itself in Golus. Vesibas HaGolus Hu, the reason that Golus exists is Maimon Azal, as the Gemara says. It's based on a pasuk that Golu Labava Shchinim. The Eibush doesn't just throw us into Golus. When we go into exile, He goes with us. The Hainu, the reason that the Eibush, or the idea that the Eibush goes into Golus with us is since a Yid invests his innermost pintele in the opposite of kedusha, the hainu belavushim tzeim the mil yama, and the filthy garments of matters of the material world, the desires of elam hazeh, niki b'shem bavel, which is called bavel. Therefore, his inner heart is exiled because he's invested his inner heart. In other words, if a person is involved in Gashmi superficially, his external heart is in Golus. When a person is involved in Gashmis with tremendous passion, his inner heart is also in Golus. I'm going to say something that says in Hasidus, I don't know if the Alter Rebbe means this, but in a lot of places it says that the inner heart is never in Golus. It's just departs. The outer heart goes down into Golus. It's called Shechina. The inner heart doesn't go to Golus, it goes away. So even though the Alter Rebbe calls it Golus, it means you can't reveal it. When a person is deeply immersed in Bavel, in the Gashmis of Bavel, you can't reveal the Pnimiyas Halev. So the Alter Rebbe now gives us an interesting idea. This idea that our preoccupation with Gashmis puts our Pintel and Neshama in general, and our Pintel in particular in Golus, says the Rebbe, it's Bechinas Orla. It's the concept of an Orla. What's an Orla? It's a piece of skin, Hamachas Al-Abis, which covers over. Correct? And here a person's preoccupation with Gashmis V'chumis becomes a concealment over Unekuda Pnimiyas Shabalev, the inner point in the heart. So, there's an outer heart and an inner heart. The outer heart could for sure be in Golus. The Chiddush over here is that the inner heart could also be in Golus. How could the inner heart be in Golus if I put my inner heart into Gashmis V'chumis exile? Chumis exile. It's like the Rebbe Azeh, Behine. The pasuk says, we have to cut away the arla, you have to cut away the blockage between yourself and your inner pintel and your inner neshama. Now I want to make something very clear as an introduction. We're going to see it inside, but I want to say it beforehand. And that is that there's two psukim. One says, pasuk is mal temes ozvachem, you have to circumcise your heart. And the other pasuk says, mal Hashem lekechas levavcha, the Eibush has to circumcise your heart. So the Maimorim explain, we can only circumcise the chitzeni yisalev, the outer heart. The Eibush has to circumcise the inner heart. And that's going to really what the Alter Rebbe is going to say now. In general, the inner and the outer hearts can be exiled. And therefore, in general, the solution is you have to circumcise the inner and outer hearts. In particular, we can circumcise only the outer heart. The inner heart, the Eibush has to do for us. And we help him do it for us through what? Through giving tzedakah. There's two levels to this idea of cutting away the blockage within the Yid and his own godliness. Mila, the act of moving the basic Mila. Upriya, and moving the finer skin. Shein Orla Gasa Klipa Daka. Mila is removing the thick Orla, the real coarse Gashmizik Orla. And Priya is removing the Eidel Klipa. And the Gemara says, if you don't remove the thinner Klipa, you haven't removed the Graba Klipa because it's going to, so to speak, grow back. It's spiritually not going to be sufficient. Says the Alter Rebbe Chaim Baral Salev. It's true also in Ruchnius that Yesh Gamkin Taivas Gases, there are coarse Taivas which are repaired through Mila, Vidakes and Eliot Eidele Taivas which are repaired through Priya, Milo Priya. And the halach is a Movale part if you remove your connection to coarse Taivas and you don't remove your connection to fine Taivas, Kilo Leimos, if you haven't even removed your connection to coarse Taivas, because in the final analysis Adayin it remains that Nekudas Pnimiyas Halev, the inner heart, even if you remove the klipa to the outer heart, but the inner heart remains in Golus. Himechusa is covered over Bavush Sak, in the garment which is sack-like, which is not free to maneuver. Dak, which is fine, but it's a Babchinas Golus Veshiv, it's a category of Golus and captivity. And it has to be eliminated. And again, I think the pshat is, the Pnimis Lev is not Golos, but the Pnimis Lev is Behelem. It's Kuchabrichus Solok, it's not revealed. And therefore you have to remove the thick, coarser Klipa Arla, which is called Mila, which we have to do on our own. And then the Priya, moving the final Klipa, the Eibush helps us. B'hinei, Al Rebbe explains, Al Mila, so Al Mamish, the removal of the coarser skin, save the policy is a Maltemes Arlas Levavchem. Atem Ba'atzvachem, you have to remove your own coarser blockage. Nobody's going to help a person remove his flaws on his emotional, intellectual level. On Chitzenius Alev, you have a brain, you have a heart, make yourself a servant of the Eibush. The removal of the finer concealment, which has to do with the inner heart, which is a sensitivity which reveals the blegal of the neshama. It's difficult for a person to do that, because we're talking about a sensitivity issue. It's not removing your involvement in taivus in a coarse way, it's your involvement in taivus in a very edel and a theoretical way. That's why it says that when Mashiach comes, Hashem is going to circumcise the heart to make that it should be that we should love the Eibishter with all our hearts and all our souls, that we should be able to live. Claim, in other words, because the Eibishter himself, who call chayecha mamish, is your whole life mamish. Now normally, kihu chayecha means Hashem gives you food, Hashem gives you clothing, Hashem gives you shelter. Here, Kuchayecha means, besides for the Eibush, you have no chayes. This is consistent with what the Alter Rebbe says in the Ger Hatshuva that we finished a while back. Perek Tes, he also uses this marshal of B'chol Nafshecha and Kuchayecha, and the Rebbe explains that doesn't mean the typical Kuchayecha means Hashem gives you what you need in Gashmis. Kuchayecha means your whole reality is Ruchnius and the Eibishter, but you cannot reach this by yourself. This is a matana from the Eibishter. Shalachein, as a result, or therefore, Avazu, this inner Ava, which has to do with removal of the priya, the arla hadaka, which revealed the pnimius alev. It's a much deeper love. Minikud the pnimius mamish kanal, from the inner point of the heart mamish. It's higher than understanding. The first love, which can only be possible if you do the milah, you remove the arla gasa, reveals love, which is called chitzenius alev. The second love, which is through the priya, which Hashem has to help us do when Mashiach comes, reveals the edel pnimius deka'ava to the meibishten, right, which is from the Pnimis and Hashem, which is believable. This is the pshat in the Gemara, the Mashiach Baba Hes Chadas, the closest spell. Mashiach comes to Eden in the way of Hes Chadas. What's the simple type of Hes Chadas? Mashiach comes, you're not expecting him. So Hes Chadas means it's higher than Das. When you go past the Madrega of Das, it reveals the point of the general inner dimension of the Neshama. And bringing out the general Shechina. Me'agolos v'ashivya, from a captivity, from an exile for captivity, and it should remain la'adol and yolamim forever. So the idea is that the revelation of the inner heart is only possible if the Eibishter circumcises the edela dimension of the klipa. So we should be able to feel that Yuchayacha Mamash, Hashem is our life Mamish, and when Mashiach comes, it's going to be Hes Chadas. Hashem is going to give us Avas Hashem, which is higher than reason altogether. Continues the Alter Rebbe, and he says, V'chein kol nitzitz prati me'ashchina, every individual spark of the Shechina, which is Shabanefesh Kolachat Miyisrael, which is individually in the souls of every single individual Jew. When Mashiach comes, the Eibishter redeems it from the Neshama. But the V'chein, moreover, this is true now too, that Kol Nitzitz Pratim Ashchina, every individual spark of the Shechina, Shabanefesh Kolachat Miyisrael, which is in the souls of every Jew. Kol Nitzitz Pratim Ashchina, Shabanefesh Kolachat Miyisrael, the personal spark of the Shechina, which is the pintalid in each Jew. So Yetes Me'agos V'ashivya Lefi is taken out of exile and captivity temporarily, B'chayesha Zutfila, through the life of the arrow, which is davening, V'avoida Shabalev, in the service of Hashem in the heart, and for a few minutes while you're davening, you're able to experience Me'umkadalib from the depths of the heart, Me'bechinas Nekuda HaPnimius, the inner point of the heart, Haniglis Meha'arla, which reveals itself from this blockage while you daven, Ve'ela Lamaila, and it rises upward, L'davka Beita become attached to Hashem. B'tshuka Azah, with a very tremendous thirst, B'bechinas Laman Chayecha, to the point that your whole life is serving the Eibishter. So just like when Mashiach comes, Hashem removes the Arla and allows us to experience the inner heart, when the Yedavans, he experiences it temporarily. You understand? Hugam came, it's also higher than Das, Ha'adam of the person, because this level in the Ma'alim Das, Ha'adam is higher than knowledge of a person, Vizbaranusa, and his ability to think, Bidul Savai, in the greatness of Hashem, Matana, it's a gift. There is Nisuna Mei Savaya, Min Hashemayim, given from the Eibishter from heaven. Because it's higher than Das. It's an experience of Avas Hashem, which is above Das. From the revelation of the face of the Eibusha, so to speak. As the Pasuk says, Hashem reveals his panim, his pnimius, his countenance to us. And this is the idea, Hashem has to circumcise our hearts. So he says, when Mashiach comes, Hashem removes it. When the Yid davens, he experiences it as well. Interesting that when Yid davens, he experiences Pintel Yid is very far from simple, but fine. But there's one thing I want to mention. The Alter Rebbe says that when you daven, it's called Chai Yishah, temporary life. In the Gemara, this is viewed as a negative. What's called Chai Yolam? Torah. What's called Chai Yishah? Tefillah. So Tefillah is lower than davening. Here, the Alter Rebbe makes it into a maila. That Yitzis me'agolos va'ashivya lefi shah. A person is going out of golos and shivya lefi shah. Over here, b'chai Yishah zu Tefillah. So I don't know pshat, but I think the pshat is that when you daven, for a few minutes, you're experiencing Ein Sof. It's not something that you could sustain. You understand what I'm saying? Chayel, when a person brings Torah into his life, it changes him forever. Chai Yishah, somehow it's connected to time, but in this time, you're bringing down the infinite light of the Eibush, which is called the inner heart. And for those few minutes that you're davening, you're experiencing a connection to Hashem, which is called Hesach Hadas, higher than knowledge. You got it?